James is having soup and cheese and crackers and kiwi, and he's going to talk about
a variety of things.
Herman Hesse.
Herman Hesse.
So I'm just going to be washing windows while James does his talk, because I need my plants to have light, and so the windows have to be clean.
Okay, so this is a preview.
No, you guys are going to have to go inside if you're like, well, that's... No, don't.
You want a star on camera, you guys got to learn to talk.
No.
What?
You can't be like that open.
So I've got 15 more pages to read in this thing, so it's kind of like a preview. I've gone through 370 pages or so already. Maybe there'll be a huge surprise. I don't think so. Anyway, Aus Indian. What does it consist of? It's basically travelogue. Dates to way back when. I think it was published in 1980. That's a reprint. I think it was 1910. Anyway, so he went on a big trip when he was fairly young to ultimately to Malaya, places like that, but stopped in Sri Lanka back when it was called Ceylon, and went through the, I was going to say the Nile Canal. I just woke up. The Suez Canal. Went through the Red Sea. Went through, I think he set sail from Genoa, up to the Germans call it. Anyway, Genoa is what the English call it. And then, he was, he went to Indonesia. Just wanted to be sure. And then he's got some essays that were written after he was on the trip. So, Indian wisdom, the Chinese, remembrance of Asia.
Okay, you guys have to go in. Come on.
Of Oriental
Let's go.
You don't see what? Yeah, you better go inside.
Go on. You just gotta go in when you're
Indian
like that.
Fairy tales, kind of. Right? Remembrance of India, memories of India, so on and so forth. There's some nice pictures in here, some of them photos, a little small in this format, black and white, so this was republished in 1980, I should say. Is it Surkamp? Surkamp. Let me just see. Surkamp. Taschenbuch. So a pocket Taschen is pocket book. I'm mispronouncing it, but I'm trying. It's a book. But there's a lot of stuff in here. First time I read Herman Hesse, it was a translation of his novel Damien. Rather pretentious, and I mean pretentious, and not just arrogant. Fellow at university lent it to me. And he once said to me, this pretentious fellow, "You're smarter than I am. I'm more talented than you." And at that point, I don't even think he's more talented than me. I was definitely smarter. And it didn't take me long before I was way more talented. Way more talented. That's even before he graduated university. He was getting close to it. I can remember once he was saying, I can't stand 18th century English literature. I'm taking a course on it. I'm not going to read the requisite material. When it comes to doing the essay, I'm just going to use secondary literature. Wow, what are you in it for, dude? Didn't say that to him. I don't know if I'd even say it to him now. He was, he's quite a pretentious individual. He thought he was a great soccer player. And he'd heard a friend of mine talking about how good I was at soccer, and I hadn't even started my official soccer career. I just done the 5PX exercise program, RCF exercise program, and I was really fit. So I was playing with my friends. They were intellectuals and artists and stuff like that. And ultimately it'd be like one goaltender aside, and I'd play against 3 or 4 of them, and I'd still win. And so finally they said, well, you'd better find, we're not enjoying this. I guess you can see that. Maybe you can find a league or something like that. Eventually I did. But this one fella he thought he was a really good soccer player, so he heard my friends talking about him or something like that, about me, and he challenged me. I'll beat you. So it was just he and a friend of his, and then me and a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, a very nice guy, and we just plastered them. Absolutely. I think it was 10-1. I don't know how they got the one goal. Anyway, he said, "Oh, it's just a race for you. I challenge you. I'll get some of my friends." They ended up being from Hong Kong or whatever, where he was from. They were nice people. But my friend had a brother who was, I think, on the university volleyball team. And he and his brother were from Australia originally, so they actually knew how to play soccer. And there was a guy that they knew. They eventually called him Bogey. I can't remember exactly what his first name was, but he eventually ended up playing for the Royals. Anyway, this pretentious English major, he thought he was really just better than me in so many different things, turned up with his buddies. And, it was an absolute massacre. Lost so badly. I didn't hear him boasting about soccer ever again, and that was well worth the, got to say. So Damien, he let me, Damien, I'm going, it was in translation, it was translated. This is in the original term. It's not Damien. Anyway, I was reading this, well, this guy's considered something like a classic. It's just too easy. Now, he did have a easy writing stuff like that. I don't know. Like when someone gets to a certain age, I expect a certain degree of maturity. So he's going along, and he hates the colonialists. He's saying, "Oh, these religions are so awesome" and stuff like that. But he recognizes, he sees people drinking out of rivers where people are peeing and pooping directly in it. You got to draw some conclusions that people are doing. There's something wrong with their culture when they don't understand simple sanitation. So life expectancy has gone up since something like science has invaded these areas. It's gone up significantly in cases. I don't know. Some people think it's better to. Where is it? I was reading. Some individual was saying, used to Western stuff. It's bad for the soul or something like that. It's, according to this one person, it's deliciously not quite delightful, but exciting to be faced with the prospect of an early death. That comes with, he recognizes that if you have a non-Western lifestyle, you're going to be faced with the prospect of earlier death. You might live to be 80, 90, whatever, but the chances are you're going to die young. You look at places before they were westernized, and that life expectancy was around 30 years. I understand lower for women. I think largely because of childbirth and the trials that come with that. But yeah, deliciously, I can't remember the exact word, but deliciously was used. I think it was in English. That was the original stuff. I'll be reviewing that book shortly. I don't think I've quite finished it, but deliciously challenging. Stuff like that. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. You know, like if someone feels that way, they're welcome to go and set up a little commune the way people were in the late 60s and early 70s, and, you know, get some scummy leader like Charlie Manson or Mel Lyman. Mel Lyman started the Manson family, and one of his infamous quotes, I don't know if it became famous, was Mel Lyman. Maria Muldaur's husband actually joined this group. Jeff Muldaur, I think his name was. Supposed to be some banjo player or something. Anyway, Mel Lyman. Quote. Charlie Manson went around preaching peace and love. And we don't go around preaching and killing people. Charlie Manson went around preaching peace and love and killing people. We don't go around preaching peace and love. Fill in that. Or fill in the ellipsis. So yeah, it's pretty. Here's a fancy word. Callow, maybe almost shallow. So maybe there's a little bit of this book. It's early in Hesse's career. I mean, it's stunningly boring. You know, this trip that he takes out to the east, you know, really the Southeast Asia. Apparently he was a big butterfly collector, Schmetterling. He's collecting them hither, thither, and yon. When you collect them, you kill them. I just not really thrilled about that side of it. And made sure that when the opportunity arose, he went and watched dancing girls, native dancing girls, and, in various states of undress with some of the people on the cruise that were with him on the cruise, you know, like behaving like typical colonial boors and stuff like that when it comes to seeing that. Dancing girls, native dancing girls in various states of undress. And, you know, a good half of the book, a good portion of the last, basically the last part of the book, it has essays, but it also has a couple of short stories, 2 or 3 short stories. I'm on, I think it's the last one. Yeah. So, yeah, actually the nonfiction is better than the fiction. One of the things I didn't like about Herman Hesse is he didn't seem to like rendering dialogue. So I'll be talking about how a person thinks and so on and so forth, or he thought, character think. He doesn't give much dialogue at all, you know, in these stories. I think it's a weakness. Of course, you know, when you look at some of the dialogue, you know, I'm reading slow Little Dorrit, and it's really big. It's a big novel for a work with a title with little in it. Is it about 750 pages in Penguin format? And it's the dialogue in there is so stilted. People never talk like that. There's worse, of course. Henry James, the so-called great American novelist. But people talk like that. They think like that. What? You know, that's why James Joyce said, came a little bit later, particularly Dickens. I don't think Dickens saw the 1900s. Maybe didn't even get that close. James Joyce was saying, you know, like, it didn't take him long to ask himself the question, kind of like when he was growing up, how come novels are so unrealistic? I mean, I don't know, is that what people want? Some sort of crazy fantasy world? Or something like that. Novels, basically, in the 19th century, were the TV and or movies of their time. And they were highly popular and generally pretty, well, I wouldn't say incompetent, but not really useful for learning anything about the world. I've talked before, and I'll talk again and again about this guy who was on CBC a while back. I think it was last year, talking about how he was, I think, maybe not even a self-styled economist, maybe other people recognize him as such, and maybe he had a background in literature as well. I got the impression it was more literature than economics. And he was saying, in order to understand capitalism, all you have to do is read 4 novels, or 4 novelists. And I'm going, let me guess, you know, like my eyes kind of crossed with a clank, you know, like, wow. And I said, let me guess, Zola and Dickens. And it turned out I couldn't have guessed, I was guessing something like Balzac and or something like that. But I knew that it wouldn't get much beyond the 1900. I think Zola died in 1902, and he's the most recent. So I got Dickens and Zola right. The other 2 were stunningly stupid. Jane Austen, in order to understand capitalism. And who was the other? Oh, did I say? I guessed Victor Hugo, but it was Honoré Balzac. He figured, man, I don't know if Balzac actually reached 1850. Jane Austen, I'm pretty sure, didn't even get close to 1850. What? You know, capitalism has had a long history since 1902 when Zola died, and you don't go to understand anything to novels. Just as nowadays you don't go to movies, or you don't go and watch, you don't resort to TV. It's just stupid. Whether or not an author thinks he or she is edifying, all he's doing is entertaining. And for some people, the entertainment consists of telling the reader that the reader telling his or herself, I'm edifying myself. This is really edifying for me. Cut the crap. You know, like, if you want to think that, that's okay. But it's like I've said before, and I'll say it many times again, it's okay to have problems. But don't visit them on other people. And most particularly, don't visit them on me. I hate having to restrain mocking laughter, okay? Herman Hesse. If you want to read some German stuff, read Thomas Mann, or Thomas Mann, however you want to mispronounce it. Way better a writer than this guy. Maybe a little bit earlier than him. Roughly the same time. Maybe even Robert Musil. I'm not sure where the accent comes. The name Musil seems to be Czech. It might be the past tense of the verb to have to, like must. I do find it just doesn't seem like a German word, but I can find that in my Czech English dictionary. Yes, I do have more than one. How much time? 10?
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend reading this. I wouldn't. There's some nice poems in there, I guess. I'm not good enough to know how good a German good enough at German to tell you how good a stylist. If you want to learn literary German, it's maybe okay, because it's not. If you read Thomas Mann, think you're going to run into some troubles. You know, like the guy is going to challenge you. But Herman Hesse is less challenging. Okay, the red badge. Red badge of courage. I didn't even get any soup on. I don't know how that happened. Yeah, I just woke up, so I'm going to sleep. Yeah, red badge of courage. It's supposed to be a classic of American literature. Paperback format. Is it about 150 pages? Let's see how well I remember. Yep, 160, including end matter and front matter and stuff like that. 150 pages or so. Any good? Hey, well, it's better than most American literature that I run across. You know, like I kind of like Thomas Pynchon. I find him thoroughly boring, but in some ways interesting, more in retrospect. Weird kind of sort of thing. Gravity's Rainbow actually worked my way through. I like stuff that I find boring, but I worked my way through when I was pursuing an English degree way back in my undergraduate days. I would read them at stops, Greyhound bus stops and stuff.
Are you guys going to cause trouble again?
Now, Pynchon I read at Greyhound bus stops.
I hope not.
And a little bit on Greyhound buses. I don't like reading. Driving. I love it. Yeah, here we go. Remember? No, when I'm riding in the car or the bus. And I used to be prone to motion sickness. One of the last cases of motion sickness I got was in Calgary riding a bus, a city bus, of course, going around corners, and I got hold of it. Magazine that had an article about Mickey Mantle, who's a big hero of baseball hero back before the Montreal Expos ever existed, and even more so the Toronto Blue Jays ever existed. So I used to cheer for the New York Yankees. I know for a lot of people that would be considered a confession, but there's worse. You can cheer for Boston Red Sox. At any rate, yeah, this is pretty good. So it's about the red badge of courage would be like a wound. It's about the Civil War. Here's portrayed a little soldier, presumably. It's kind of a dark uniform. So, presumably that's blue. Union soldier. It looks more gray. Johnny Reb.
Boy, that is disgusting.
It's the first part of the book, which is up until the guy starts to earn his red badge of courage. I think it's pretty perceptive. It has him running away from battle, wandering around the battlefield. I don't know if it was a battle of the Rappahannock or stuff like that. They do mention the Rappahannock River. It's just one mention. Anyway, it shows the Union soldiers having trouble. For most of the Civil War, they had big trouble. Not outnumbered, but they were outgunned in the sense of not having the skills that Southern fellows had. They were raised on shooting squirrels, maybe to a certain extent each other. And but then it has him in battle. So spoiler alert, after his show of what was considered cowardice, like from the first charge that he experienced, kind of like the second. He eventually shows his valor, picks up the flag, and marches it. Well, he's actually running in a charge and stuff like that. Earns some praise. I don't know. This guy apparently, Stephen Crane, was never in battle. It maybe shows a little bit, but
hello, darling.
I think one takeaway from this is, there are tens of thousands, as I recall. I remember it like this. No, I'm not. War ended in 1865. I was born almost 100 years later. But there's lots of chitter chat, and more than that. If you see about America being a racist society. You know, United States, the real United States, which is outside of the.
Hey, you're going in again.
They sacrifice lots of their sons to
Gotta go
free
in now.
the slaves
Come
in
on,
the
babe.
southern states. You don't do that if you're racist. So
Get.
there might be racial prejudice in the north,
Gotta go.
and there'd be a few racists, but when we're talking about the northern part of the United States,
Don't do that.
it's not racist. When you talk that way, it's the equivalent for a whole society of slander. When you put it in writing, it's the equivalent of libel for a whole society. Cut the crap out. 3 minutes?
Yep.
So it's a short thing, like if you're interested in English literature, particularly written by Americans, there you go. It's better than a lot of stuff. We're reviewing some Mark Twain stuff, maybe a little bit overrated. I do like Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer. I gather they, a long time ago, gave up teaching that in school. Is it because they've got a slave in it? Is it because the N-word is used? The thing is, I don't like a word, but it was used back then. Introduce it to kids. Put it into context. We don't use words, but they used to back then. Well, that's something called reality. So I've mentioned this before. Does it come recommended? I kind of wish Robert Graves hadn't put so many footnotes in here of the kind that, every culture used to worship triple goddess, or Indo-European culture, triple goddess, all this sort of stuff. He has certain theories. He'll be saying, 2 minutes?
Yes.
He'll be saying things like, this myth or legend was taken from a picture or a sculpture or a design with figures on some piece of pottery. No, ridiculous. Those things were illustrating myths and legends. Like where did the myths and legends and stories and sagas and whatever to be found in Native American traditions come from? What? Yeah. No, they didn't have much renderings of, here we've got writing on stone park and stuff like that. But no one's going to tell me, they created a myth out of this writing on stone, out of these pictographs found on the shores of the Milk River. No, ridiculous. There's got too much of that, the idea that nectar was, ambrosia maybe was. Nectar was some sort of, ambrosia was some sort of psychedelic drug, or it's a mushroom, stuff like that. Ridiculous. No, I'm not saying I shouldn't say it's ridiculous, but it just pushes that too much. Like the god Dionysus, the god Bacchus for the Romans, this Greek ones, but they were about alcohol. Come on. Kashmiri poet from about 500 years ago. I'm learning Kashmiri. This is a preview. Get ready.